Here's why you should never, ever buy any GM vehicle for 2.4 engine, especially in Equinoxes and Terrains. Number one, these engines, look at eBay Motors. These are California emissions ones, by the way. $4,464.61. And that's not even a remanufactured engine. That's California emissions. They're usually more expensive, yeah. How many miles? 86,000 miles. Not only that, they are a very high risk. Those motors were known, the time and chain farms were known for burning oil. They're known for the infamous PCV system blowing out the rear main seals. And those things are junk. Those things are junk. They're jokes. And never ever buy one of those. Here's another engine you shouldn't buy. Another car. Hyundai Sonata or Kia with the 2-liter or the 2.4. They're also very high right now. Hyundai's have class action lawsuits against those engines. And, well, GM had too with the Equinox burning oil. But this one is also another engine. You should never, ever buy another vehicle. Hyundai, Kia. Do not buy one of those. In fact, I wouldn't recommend anything made by Hyundai or Kia. They're all junk. They get stolen. They catch on fire. They burn oil. And in some cases, they have bad transmissions. But the end is the main problem with Kia and car thefts. You remember those Kia boys keep stealing those cars in the Midwest America. Now it's spreading all over the country. It's crazy. Look at another engine you shouldn't buy. Here's another one. Ford 3.7 V6. That has the internal water pump or the 3.5 or the 3.5 EcoBoost. Do not buy one. I've seen those blow up because of water pumps dumping the coolant in the engines. Just like the Chrysler 2.7. It's not as bad as a Chrysler 2.7, but it has the same issue. There's cop cars that Explorers and Tauruses. They just blow up engines. They also blow up PTUs also. And sometimes a PTU can cause a transmission case to crack if it's bad enough. Yeah, this engine's not that expensive. It's not as expensive as the other ones, but the reason why I wouldn't recommend buying one is because the water pump timing issue. The rear drive ones, the F-150s, the Mustangs, the Transit vans, they do not have that problem. They have the external water pump, which is actually a relatively reliable engine. It's not the best engine, but I think it's by far the best V6 Ford ever had. On the rear drive, on the front drive, stay away. And there's engines that you should buy. Ford 2.5 liter. Those are good engines. And how much it costs? $788.97. I mean, think, man, it's not People say it's not cheap. Well, it is cheap compared to the GM 2.4 and the Hyundai engines. And it's a 4-cylinder. It's 2.5 liters. It's a relatively reliable engine. They do have a couple problems with plastic thermostat housing and stuff like that. But overall, this engine's pretty much almost bulletproof. Another engine you should buy, General Motors 3.8 V6. Those are bulletproof. They're great engines. The General Motors 3.8 V6 has been known to be a very reliable engine. It's just a great engine. Other than some years, the intake manifold gasket issue and the plastic tubing pipes that go to it, they can be replaced with metal for pretty cheap though. You can get these cars pretty cheap these days most of the time, but cars are more expensive right now, so you know, it's even compared to the newer cars, those cars are still relatively affordable. Another engine you should buy, the Ford 4.6 liter 2-valve engine. Not the 3-valve. Stay away from the 3-valve, especially the 5.4 3-valve, but the 2-valve. They're good engines. Other than the spark plug spitting out of the cylinder head, which most of the time, it's mostly the earlier motors. The later ones don't have that problem as much as the earlier ones, but 4.6 is a great motor besides the spark plug spitting out. The problem with the spark plug spitting out is some years they didn't have enough threads, but there's also another problem. The spark plug torque specs that Ford specified from the factory wasn't high enough. They torqued it 15 foot-pounds, but what many technicians says, you're supposed to torque them at 25 foot-pounds of torque. And they never seen one blow out again. And they had the Healy coils and stuff like that. You gotta be careful with buying. You gotta buy quality ones, so you don't have to take the heads off anymore, but when they first came out, yeah, you had to, but these days you can get away with putting Healy coils in the spark plug well, stuff like that. Another engine you should buy is a General Motors LS-based engine. They're great engines. They may be more expensive as a used engine, but that's because racers want to buy them and boost the heck out of them and stuff like that. But these engines are very reliable. Well, the AFM engines, they are still good engines, but you have to change the oil regularly, and you also, I'd recommend deleting the AFM system actually on those engines, and the LT engines, and the Hemis. I recommend deleting this cylinder deactivation system entirely, with new cams, new lifters, all of that. As long as it's legal, of course. I'd recommend deleting the active fuel management system and the MDS system if it's a Chrysler product, the Hemi. I'd recommend deleting it. We'll go back to the not to buys. This one, you shouldn't. I'm gonna look for it. North Star, you shouldn't buy one if it's a earlier one. you shouldn't really buy any front-wheel drive North Star products. Do not buy a Cadillac North Star unless you know what you're doing, you're a mechanic and you're willing to put North Star Performance head studs and also the main studs on the bottom. They also are a problem with North Stars. And you know what the car wizard said about buying a Chevy Equinox, a GMC Terrain, Acadia, Enclave? Do not buy one, ever. Never, ever buy one of those cars, ever. They are junk, junk, junk. Do not buy one of those cars. Because people keep buying those cars because they're like a couple grand cheaper than a Toyota or a Honda or even a Mazda. Do not buy one of those cars, ever. I don't care if it's used. I don't care if it's new. Do not buy one. If you have to have one, lease one brand new. Otherwise, don't buy one of those cars. Same thing goes for the Kias and Hyundais. Don't buy one. I wouldn't even lease one. Just like a Land Rover, Range Rover, Jaguar. I wouldn't buy one or lease one just like those cars. Except they're just a lower end vehicle of the least reliable vehicle in the world, which is the least reliable brand, which is Land Rover and Jaguar. They're bad. Don't buy one of those cars. And also the 3.6 V6. That's not the version I'm looking. It's better than the 2.4, but still, they still have time and chain issues. They still have, can't think of any other issues besides time and chain issues, but they may have something wrong with that PCV system issues. This is an LFX. The ones that have the most issues are the LLT engines and the LY7. And the 3-liter versions of that. LFX can still have time and chain system issues, but they aren't as bad as the previous versions were, but still, you shouldn't buy one. Don't buy a 3.6 either. But they're better than, if I had to choose between a 2.4 and a 3.6 in Equinox Terrain, I'd buy the 3.6 all day long. But I'd rather just pay a couple grand more and buy a Toyota, or buy a Honda, or a Mazda, not worry about this crap. In another motor, you want to think about another motors you shouldn't buy. What is this? General Motors, that's a 1.8. 1.8's actually, it's not as bad, but the turbocharged motors, a 1.4 turbocharged, and the 1.5 as well. Never ever buy one of those. They are junk. They have turbo problems. They have overheating problems. They crack heads. They crack blocks. They have oil cooler issues. The 1.8 also has that too. But the 1.4 turbo's even worse. They just have major engine failures. There's another motor you shouldn't buy. There's a lot of GM products, a lot of Ford products. I haven't gotten the Chrysler products yet, but the 2-liter, yeah, this is a 2-liter, it's not the EcoBoost. The EcoBoost 1.5, 1.6, and some 2-liters. And some 2.3 as well. They're bad. They have problems with overheating, coolant intrusion, where coolant gets in the cylinder walls, destroys the engine. They're just bad motors. Not talking about the non-turbos, talking about the EcoBoost Ford 4-cylinder engines. They're bad. Don't buy one of those. My dad has a Ford Fusion, but it's not one of those crappy engines. It's the 2.5. Really, the only motors you should buy in a Ford, that's a 4-cylinder, is the Duratec 2-liter, 2.3, 2.5. That's it. The older Z6 may be good, but the single over cam 4-cylinders, don't buy one of those. Even valve seat issues, don't buy them. It's a 1.9 liter. It was bad for valve seats, and 2 liters that had the single over cam, those were bad. There's another, the EcoBoost 4-cylinders. Do not buy one of those. Not even in a Focus or Fiesta ST. They're bad also. And the Ford Focus. I'm talking about the Ford Focus. It's not the transmission, store clutch. Focus Fiesta. Do not buy one of those with that transmission in it. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Chryslers now. 2.7. Don't buy. Also the 3.7 and the 4.7 and the early 5.7 Hemis as well. Valve seat issues on the 3.7, 4.7 and pre-2009 5.7s. Well, the 5.7s, if it's been addressed before it happens, it's a good engine. But if it hasn't had it, you better take care of that before it fails on you. The 3.7, the 4.7, they cost more to fix because they're overhead cam time and chain engines. And they're just not good engines. They're junk. The 2.7 V6 Chrysler, look how much it cost. $3,000 for a good used one. It's hard to find a good used Chrysler 2.7 V6 because they're that bad. And they are very high risk right now. And they always will be. They're bad engines. Do not buy one of those engines. Another Chrysler engine you shouldn't buy is a 3.6 Pentastar engine. Now it's cracked cylinder heads. Some people have had good luck with them, but there's been cases of those engines having cracked cylinder heads. They eat camshafts like the 5.4 valve Triton does. And they have a 2-stage oil pump, which means you shouldn't idle them excessively because it'll fail and it's not cheap to fix it either. Especially in the front wheel drive cars. They're just not good. Chrysler 3.5 V6, that's actually okay engine. It's still not the best engine, but 3.5 V6 wasn't a bad engine. It's just that you gotta change oil on those engines often, and you gotta do the timing belt water pump like every 60,000 miles or something. They're good engines. They don't have the same problem as 2.7, even though they share some parts with them. But the 2.7, the difference between the 2.7 3.5 is number one, the door over cams, and number two, the timing chain system. And they have the water pump in the timing chain that's driven by the timing chain, and they leak into the crankcase and destroy the motor. This is crazy. 2.4 Equinox. Do not buy one of those. My stepmom has one. It's been good to her. But I keep telling her to get a Toyota or a Honda or a Mazda. Get something else besides that piece of crap Chevy. Because eventually it's going to go out on her. Never buy one of... Do not buy an Equinox. Do not buy a Terrain. Do not buy any Chevy motor. Any Chevy with a 2.4 Ecotech. Also the 3.6 and the 3 liter. And the 1.4 turbo. The only GM motors you should ever buy is the small block Chevy, the big block Chevy, the LS base engine, the LT base engine, the 3.8, 4.3 V6. That's it. Well, in the LBZ Duramax, which is okay. Duramax can be a good motor, but they can be more expensive fixed since it's a diesel motor, but I've seen people have good luck with them on YouTube or something like that. They can last a long time, but those most GM 4-cylinders are junk. General Motors 4-cylinders, most of them are junk. The only good GM engines are the V8s, some of the V6s, well, the V8s except for the Cadillac motors, which is the HT4100 in the North Star. The LS motors are good. The LT motors, they have AFM problems, but they can be good motors as well, but they're going to cost you more to get than an LS-based motor, or even a small block Chevy. But in the Ford motors, 4.6, the Inline 6 300, which is a very good motor. I have that in that van. I haven't started up yet, but that motor's known to go for a very long time. Mine only has 150,000 miles on it. They're known to go double that. They're known to go 300,000 miles before it needs anything done to it, anything major done to it or something like that. Those engines are good. And the 302 is also a good motor. 460, the 351, 2-valve, 4.6, 5.4, and the V10. V10, they don't get that great gas mileage, but it's still a very reliable motor. The 2-valve versions are. The 3-valve, well, they don't have the cam phaser problems. They don't have a cam phaser on them, but they still have issues with camshafts on them, but they're not nearly as common as the 5.4 3-valve, which is a bad motor. There's a Dodge motor. Dodge motors, when you think about other Dodge Chrysler motors, besides the 2.7, they say the Penastars, I thought they were good motors at one point, just like the Kias. Thought the Kias and Hyundais were good cars at one point, but now they're not. They're bad. Don't buy them. I thought they were good at one point, but they're not anymore. They're just not good cars. The Penastar motors, I thought they were good. They're not good. Even though some people had good luck with them, but and the 5.4 3-valve, some people had good luck with those too. Well, even the 2.4 Chevys, some people had good luck with them, but a lot of them are bad. It's just too many issues, too much risk. You should go buy a Toyota. You should go buy a Honda. You should go buy a Mazda. Buy anything else but this piece of crap GM 2.4. Yeah, Subaru. Well, they're high maintenance cars, but I have seen some people good luck with it. I have seen listings and YouTube videos that they get good miles out of them, but Subarus are still high maintenance cars. You have to change oil regularly. The CV axles on Subarus are not cheap. As far as I know, they're not cheap. And Mitsubishi, they're good cars too, but again, it's got the CVT, that's Nissan. The engines are good. Transmissions, well, they're better than the Nissans. There's been cases of failures with them. Gotta change the transmission fluid often on those cars. Mitsubishi's, Nissans. Nissans can be good cars, but watch out for those CVT transmissions. You shouldn't buy a Nissan CVT, but the Frontier, the pickup trucks, the 350Z, the 370, those are good cars. The CVTs, I wouldn't buy one. I'd buy the manual before I buy the CVT. Whether it's an Essentra, an Altima, or Maxima, I'll buy the manual Nissans before I buy the CVT ones. Because of the failures they have. They like to overheat. If you have a CVT Nissan, make sure you are changing the transmission fluid often. I actually recommend putting a bigger transmission cooler on it because heat kills. Most common issue of those that kills them is heat. And also, don't abuse them. Don't beat the heck out of those cars. Those CVTs are weak. Really, don't beat the heck with any car that has a CVT in it. Because that transmission will fail, and its CVTs are very expensive to fix. And you better take care of those CVTs or else you're going to blow them up or something. Because they're just not good. They're just not as strong as a manual or traditional automatic transmission. Yeah, GM automatic transmissions. A lot of them. The front wheel drive ones. You gotta be careful with those. You gotta change the fluid like every 36,000 miles. And same thing goes with Fords. And especially Chryslers. Chryslers historically have had the worst automatic transmissions in recent history. Although the newer ones are better, a lot of the older ones are just not good, especially in the town and country minivans, in the Grand Dodge vans, the minivans. Yeah, here's another GM engine you should be cautious about. It's a V6. It's a 60-degree V6, whether it's a 2.8, the 3.1, the 3.4, the 3.5, or the 3.9. They can be good engines, but there's one thing you should change, and that's the intake gaskets on them. You should change the intake gasket like every 2 years or like 60,000 miles or something like that. You gotta change the intake gaskets often on those motors, or else you'll blow the head gasket out, and that's not cheap to fix. And you gotta flush the cooling system often on those too. And only use GM coolant. Do not use any other coolant but the GM coolant on those. If you do, you'll sludge up the cooling system. It costs a lot of money to fix. That's what I heard. Yeah, that's it for this video. If you can't think of any more engines that are not on this list that you shouldn't buy, let me know in the comments. Like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video.